Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here too.
Rah!
Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero and Johnny Woodard on the ones and twos. Guys, we got a great show for you. We got the one of the guys who influenced the show to start Tinfoil. He influenced Tinfoil Hat to start. Lee Camp joins us. We have a really great conversation. If you want to see me live, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody from Kansas City who came out for this weekend. Always a pleasure to play Dustin's Club. It's one of the best clubs in the country, the Comedy Club of Kansas City. It's a wonderful club. So thank you to everybody coming out. Tonight, tomorrow night, the last night, whatever, go to the comedy. Come and see Comedy Chaos while you can. I don't know how much longer this show is going to go. Okay. So go check out Comedy Chaos. It's a great show. Grab your tickets now. And by the way, everybody's copying my super shows. We're still the cheapest super show out there. I keep it cheap because I know people are struggling. That's why I don't make my show super expensive. Okay. So $25 to see everybody. I'm not doing, they have certain seats they charge more because that's the Comedy Store. But my show's super cheap for everybody. I just want you to know that. We have a murder lineup as always. Also, I want you guys to know that my special is going to come out either end of July or early August. Quiet, as in why is everybody getting quiet? It's been edited. The final touches are getting done. I will let you know where you come and see it. And finally, again, if you want to support SamTripoli, check out all my premium content. It's only $8, and I'm giving you more stuff than I give you anywhere else. Johnny Cash reading the Bible, Dangerous, where you can't hear these topics anywhere else unless the deep web. Deep Conspiracy Rewinds and AM to A's, all on SamTripoli.com. If you're on Rockfin, for just SamTripoli, please go to SamTripoli.com and subscribe there. Anything else, guys?
Now let's go.
All right. Enjoy the episode.
Drink from the
All right. Let's get into it. Very excited to have this gentleman on. I know every time he comes on, I say this, but he is one of the big influences on me starting this show. I was watching his coverage of Hillary Clinton's jack in the primaries from Bernie Sanders, and I was always really open-minded to that. And him and Jimmy Dore both really opened my mind to this whole thing. So they were big inspiration on why I started Tinfoil Hat. So happy to have him back. Please welcome Lee Camp. How are you, Lee?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there. I mean, it's an honor to have you say that I was part of the inspiration. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, especially your coverage of the exit polling was really opening my eyes to that the numbers weren't matching up. And, I don't know what your take on is on cultural Marxism and stuff like that. We can have a discussion because I know you come from maybe a little different angle than most of the guests we have on here, which is why I love having you on. I always want all the sides discussed on Tinfoil Hat, but there has been this kind of movement, I feel, from, let's just say, maybe we'll agree on the elites, the oligarchy, whatever you want to call it, to get us not to believe our eyes, our ears, or the wisdoms of our experiences. And when I was watching, Bernie Sanders fill up stadiums, giving speeches, and Hillary Clinton was pulling SamTripoli numbers in a fucking cafeteria, I go, something doesn't make sense to me. And that's kind of the first time I realized there was like an assault on our thoughts and stuff like that. So yeah. For those who aren't familiar with your many appearances on this show, it's been a while. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, I mean, comedian, political commentator, coming from the left side, but I also I think what a lot of people can agree with is that this system is ridiculously rigged and corrupt, and that's what you're speaking to with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And I think that moment woke a lot of people up to how insanely rigged these election cycles are. I mean, we can get more into that, but I've done stand-up comedy for 20 odd years. I mean, maybe closer to 30 almost. And then I got the TV show Redacted Tonight, which a lot of people know me from. And that show went for 8 years. I wrote all my own stuff for 8 years, once a week. And then they, U.S. sanctions shut it down 2 years ago. YouTube channel completely banned around the world. Over 2,000 videos just like digitally burned. The same week they banned my podcast on Spotify. It's now up under a new name. It's now called The Lee Camp Show. But I started from scratch on YouTube, and I've had a bunch of other ways that I've been shadow banned or banned outright, and it keeps chasing me. It seems to never stop, but I just keep going.
Yeah, and I'm really happy you're on because obviously I deal with that as well. I figure the way I see it, you and I, Lee, we're old school troublemakers. There seems to be a bunch of new school troublemakers, or what they presented as troublemakers, who don't seem to face the same kind of censorship that the people who were like early on in the Hillary Clinton campaign, her run for presidency, seem to still be, kind of judged by the tech people and really censored and stifled. Like, I get it all the time. Like, once they either realize this account is associated with me, or as I'm seeing right now, that election's getting close, so let's throttle the troublemakers that we're seeing, like literally in real time. I forget what show I was on, but in real time, both of Meta's platforms, which are Instagram and Facebook, both dinged me right at the exact same moment. It was when I was doing a Union of the Unwanted, and I had just posted that the Union of the Unwanted was going to be on Rockfin. And then the funniest thing, and this is the second time Meta has done this to me, that they dinged me for a post which was just a reposting of something they suggested to me. So like the first time they did it, it was an old flyer that I had that had Tara Patrick on, looking gorgeous, fully clothed, no nudity, fully clothed. And it was like, hey, check it. Remember this Facebook memory? It literally says, share it again with your followers. So I'm like, oh, thanks, Facebook. I'll share it again. So I shared it again. And it goes, you violated our community standards. We're digging you right now, and you're banned for X number of days from posting. I'm like, that seems like entrapment to me. And then what I like to do, Lee, is whenever there's a really big major event, I like to go see how the Instagram models are taking it, right? Like, if there's Russian collusion or a Trump assassination, I like to see how the thoughts on Instagram are handling it, and they always handle it the same way: ass up, face down. It doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter what war is going on, it's all gonna be TNA. And so all I did, Lee, was screenshot. When you go to search suggestions, I just screenshot what Instagram was suggesting to me, because I absolutely hate my algorithm on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
I just screenshot what it showed me, and I just posted it going, the Instagram models seem to be taking the events of yesterday. Okay. Boom. They hit me with that. They hit me with a violation. So
it was more than a violation. It was more than a violation. I can't collab with you no more. You got like a new
I can't live stream. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I like am never told anything. They don't hit me with any dings. My Facebook's been stuck at about 335,000 followers since 2016. I mean, they basically just froze it. I was getting 5,000 followers a week, if not more, and they just basically froze it. And my Instagram's close to the same. They never tell me anything. I've never been told I did something wrong. They just freeze it all. They don't, if you gain followers, they just unsubscribe other people so that the number always stays the same.
Like, I don't know if you guys I
Yeah.
don't know if you can see that, but literally it's telling me 1,000 people literally decided not to follow us no more. Like, who are these 1,000 people? It's like,
Right.
is it Instagram? Is it deleted followers? Is it
Yeah,
deleted
that's exactly
account?
what they're doing.
They just undo other followers to make sure you don't gain. And it's amazing that this dynamic of these massive companies never gets like, there's, of course the government doesn't care, but it doesn't even seem like there's much outrage. It's like people spend their lives trying to build up these pages. They create businesses around them. And then it's just like, we don't like you anymore. And now their business is fucked. And yeah.
It's like Jimmy Dore says, it's the equivalent of if in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, before the internet became what it was, that's the equivalent of the phone company saying you can't have a phone number for your business. It's literally not allowing you to conduct business on the main street of business, which are these social platforms right now.
And then, people go, well, it's their business. They can do whatever they want. But the analogy I like to use is like, it's like someone spent 10 years. I mean, that's how long I built up my Facebook, 10 years building up a restaurant so that the neighborhood knew where it was and they had regular business and they become successful. And then the government or whoever builds a wall in front of the restaurant and says, well, we're not touching the restaurant. And you're like, well, nobody can get in it. Nobody sees it. Like,
I'm totally with you. And the whole notion that these are privatized business is complete and utter BS. We all know that secret CIA, dark money made their ways into all of these businesses.
In QTEL.
Yeah. Facebook. I mean, Amazon is straight up, in my humble opinion, a branch of the government. I mean, it's just pure fascism. If you really take a look at what Amazon's doing, Jeff Bezos' relationship with DARPA.
They have a multi-billion-dollar contract with the Pentagon, Amazon does. And this really comes down to, it's actually the reverse. It's not that they're connected to the government. It's that they really run the government. I mean, they make the marching orders. It's political philosopher Sheldon Wolin termed it inverted totalitarianism. It's ruled by the anonymous corporate state. And at the heart of it, that's who we're ruled by. It's not, these clowns are mainly theatrics for us to debate over. That doesn't mean they make no decisions, but they make a lot fewer decisions at the heart of the core matters than we like to pretend they do. And so it's ruled by the corporate state.
Yeah. And when someone goes, well, dude, Amazon doesn't pay taxes and that's just wrong. I go, why would the government pay taxes to itself?
Yeah.
Why would they do that? They got a great deal with the post office. Yeah. Because they're both branches of parts of the government. And it's like, you go down each one of these, Google's the exact same thing. It's so obvious that they have deep intelligence agency connections. Now, somewhere I think that, another thing that you've said on this show before, I've watched your content, you said it before, and that is about capitalism. Okay. There's going to be a lot of people that might get upset with this, with some of the listeners.
That's what this show's about, upsetting people, right?
Yeah. Rallying. I love capitalism, but we don't have, in my humble opinion, capitalism right now. We have cronyism, which is a complete other corruption of the marketplace. And back in the day, like I was just talking to a good friend of mine, we were talking about, because he owns his own business and he's like fighting tooth and nail all the time. And we were just talking about, there was a time in the 80s, the 70s and 80s where the government kind of wanted to encourage you to create businesses, and they were doing stuff to help businesses thrive. And that day is not today anymore. It is crony capitalism when the government will shut everything down, but Walmarts and Amazon Freshes and all that stuff during COVID, that to me is fascism. 100%. We don't have Johnny and I talk about all the time, like based on where I am in LA is based on the internet provider I can take. That's the only one I can take. That's not free market. There's nothing free market about that. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, well, where you and I agree is that this is a form of fascism. I mean, we have the largest police state in the world. We have the largest prison industrial complex with the most people in prison in the world. So that means the land of the free is the largest prison state on earth. So it is absolutely a form of fascism. But I guess maybe where you and I differ is, yes, this is crony capitalism, but that is capitalism. That's where it ends up. It will always end up that way, in my opinion. There's not a form of capitalism that just does away with corruption. It is designed around putting price tags on everything. There is a price tag on your water, on the trees, on your air, on your land, on every aspect of your life, on your labor, which is your soul, it's your being, and all of that is being milked in order to enrich a tiny number of galactic level assholes. And so this is the system. This is how it works. And you may put restraints on it, right? There have been restraints here and there in the past, such as the New Deal and stuff. But those are just, little weak tethers that try and hold back the monster that is at the heart of the system. And, you look at our environment, it's collapsing around us. Finding clean water is now a major effort for most people around the world. Breathing air that isn't giving you cancer is now a major effort. So it just puts a price tag on everything and creates a collapsing world around us.
I will agree with you on that. The pollution situation, the selling off of our land. I mean, right now we're hearing stories, right, Johnny, where we talked about how like Canada and Saudi Arabia are just jacking our oil. I mean, our water.
Yeah.
And they were doing it to Australia as well. I mean, China just goes in there and steals all their water, and you have farmers going, we got no water left. Whatever the system is, and and I would say this probably for every system, is like eventually the evil, the really smart or the really rich is going to manipulate it and basically create control. I mean, I agree with that. But there's a lot of stuff going on that I wanted to talk to you about. One thing I really wanted to talk to you about was something I've heard you say on your show before. I don't know when the last time I heard you say it, but I remember you saying it really resonated with me. And that is that Wall Street is a giant Ponzi scheme. Yeah. And Johnny and I, again, we have a show called Cash Daddies where with a good friend of ours, Howie Dewey, he's really good at picking these stocks and stuff like that. But we always have moments, Lee, where like we'll be reading stuff on the internet, watching YouTube videos that are saying, oh, let's say Disney's quarter didn't go well or whatever it might be. And then you take a look at their stock and it's soaring. And you go, okay, there seems to be this giant disconnect between what's happening on a business level and what's happening on a stock market level. And and I always go, well, Lee Camp, I heard him say this a long time ago. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've covered it a few times. The best book on it is by Ton Lu. It's called The Ponzi Factor. He used to work in Wall Street and in banks, and then he came out with this book. And of course, because of that, he is censored and maligned, and they won't allow him to even comment on Reddit and stuff. But anyway, what it says, and it's I know people are not into reading 900 pages books. This is like 12 pages long, and it refines it all down to the fact that Wall Street, your average stock on Wall Street is the dictionary definition, the SEC's definition of a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is something where someone sells complete garbage, and the way you make money, which you can make money in a Ponzi scheme, the way you make money is by getting someone else to buy that garbage that you've talked them into is meaningful. Now, this isn't how Wall Street has always been. That your stocks used to be an investment in a company. That company would then pay you a portion of the money they made, their profit, and you were an investor in that company. That type of money making on Wall Street is incredibly rare. It is a tiny fraction of what Wall Street is. Most of Wall Street is you buy a stock and you then try and sell it eventually for more than you bought it for. If you look at the fine print on a Google stock, the piece of paper, if you were to print it out of Google stock, it says that if you brought it to Google and said, I want the money for this stock, they would owe you a penny, or a fraction of a penny. Basically, that stock is meaningless unless you get someone else to buy it. Now, if you lie to them and say, this is worth a lot of money, you can get a lot of money, and they may give you a lot of money for it. And, so it's not saying you can't make money. People think that Ponzi schemes mean you'll get screwed. Well, what gets screwed is when everybody's left holding the bag and the system collapses on itself. I mean, we saw a taste of that in 2008. But it means that this is a Ponzi scheme. If you look at the SEC's definition, the only thing they might quibble on is that, it's Ponzi scheme is based on fraud. Wall Street is based on telling the truth about these stocks. It's like bullshit, man. Most of what is said about these businesses is lies. If you watch that documentary, just came out on HBO about a movie pass, the thing where people would pay $10 for all you can see movies. It's like they ran around on every show they could go on, CNBC, telling everyone the business was fine. It's going to make tons of money. It's going to be great. And that's what their stock was based on. And it was all lies. It's like there's no way you can sell a $10 pass for all you can see movies and make a lot of money. It was bullshit.
Pure smoke,
pure smoke and mirrors. And that's what most of this is. It doesn't mean these companies, a lot of them don't make something. It just means that the stock market in general, I mean, Tesla's stock is worth more than all, or at times been worth more than all the other automakers in America. How could that possibly be? It's based on, belief. It's an idea. It's a fairy tale. And that's what a Ponzi scheme is.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our boy James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Let me tell you about Copy My Crypto. Has it pissed you off to watch crypto fly up in prices for a decade and you still have done nothing about it? It makes sense. Crypto is complicated and really boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't need to know a thing about crypto to make money like so many have. The CopyMyCrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just got to copy him. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest. Just simply copy along. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about James. He runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 54,000 subscribers. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 into each, it went on to be well worth $123,000. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick of the year, the one he singled out called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said to buy it, okay? That one call alone has retired a number of people, including guys in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify for yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who have copied James, then pause what you're doing and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my viewers will get a full access for just $1. Yes, you've missed out on Bitcoin, but there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you've missed out on all of it? Guys, don't waste your time. Go to the site and read it. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. Guys, it's ended money worries for so many. It may just do the same for you. Copymycrypto.com/TFH. Well, and I also believe that, especially when it comes to Elon Musk, that a lot of his wealth or the wealth of Tesla is based on the fact that he's got so many contracts with the Pentagon and that he is... Yeah. And like it's almost like a more of a when you look at Tesla stock, it almost to me has a feel of like this is more about an Elon Musk stock and you investing in Elon Musk than it is actually in the Tesla company. You're betting on Elon. Is Elon going to pull this off? So Elon does crazy
cult of personality.
Yeah, 100%. And and it's like you get into just his connections with there's nobody that has that many contracts with the Pentagon that could possibly be the savior. It's impossible to work with the Death Star and at the same time trying to save humanity. I mean, like, and Johnny's a big Elon Musk guy, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you think that you can be those two things at the same time?
I don't. I would never say I'm a big Elon Musk guy. I think I feel the same way about him that many people are saying they feel about JD Vance, and that the people he pisses off are all the right people as far as I'm concerned, and that that makes me think there's some redeeming quality to him as a person. But yeah, I mean I feel the same way about the former president Donald Trump. Anybody who ascends to that level has had to play a few dirty games here or there. I totally believe
lot
that.
of dirty games.
Yeah,
Musk also pisses off. Musk also pisses off everyone who bought a Cybertruck. So
yeah,
But he doesn't have to be a
mistake.
savior either, Sam. He doesn't have to be a savior. You also make it seem like he's got to be a savior. He can just be a guy who's pissing like Johnny said, the right people off, which is what I like. I don't think he's going to come here and save the day. I mean, he's got Neuralink under him. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, but the whole discussion is he doing everything he's doing for good, or is it a smokescreen theater? Like that's the question I'm saying.
He's a transhumanist. I mean, I don't think there's any denying that. And I think there are well-meaning people who believe in a future where we merge with technology, and he's possibly one of those. I do think there are plenty of people who think that that's a bright hope for the future is our continuing convergence with technology. It
is kind of funny. There's that great clip of him on Joe Rogan, not the latest time, but like a few years ago, where he's asked about AI, and there's this long awkward pause, and he's like, I tried to tell everyone to slow down. I tried to tell them that AI would destroy us or something like that. And it's like, dude, this is terrifying. And then he goes on to be like, so the answer is to put the chips in your brain. I'm like, I don't know if that's the answer.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's like, yeah, dude, watch out for AI, but put AI right in your skull, by the way.
AI could take over the internet. By the way, put this internet connected chip into your brain. I mean, that's
it's
horrifying.
So sticking on with Elon Musk and kind of gets into some of the things you wanted to talk about. Is there a part of you that thinks that the narrative on Israel would be where it is today if it wasn't for at least some open dialogue on Twitter that you can't really find on most other social platforms?
The narrative on I'm not sure I understand, but Israel's just straight up committing genocide. So I don't know about the narrative.
Well, I mean, if let's just compare like Twitter to all the censorship that you and I, the guys on the show as well, have felt when we were trying to point out different things, and maybe you and I were pointing out different things, but we were trying to take truth to power. We were trying to point out about the corruption of this, corruption of that. Let's get into again what I talked about earlier. You talking about Bernie Sanders getting hijacked from Hillary Clinton for the DNC primary. There seemed to be like a real push to censor that story getting out. And if we understand that Israel has a real control of like not just our government, I mean the media and our government, the amount of discussion about what Israel is doing on Twitter seems to be more places now than any time before anywhere else. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're absolutely right. But I think it has to do with the fact that that Israel's committing such a massive such a genocide on a grand scale. And if people care, I can let them know I'm Jewish, but that doesn't really matter. that it's been very difficult, despite the fact that they have been able to control the propaganda around Israel. They call it Hasbara. They've been able to control it for many years, for the most part. Those of us who have been speaking the truth about Israel for many years have been attacked in a variety of different ways, and it has been difficult to get the truth out. But now it is so aggressive, it's so in your face, despite the fact that they have killed more journalists than the entirety of the Vietnam War, more journalists than the entirety of World War II. The message is still getting out that this is a straight up genocide. I think people need to understand what Israel is. It is a settler colonial state, and that has stolen people's land. Many of them still have the keys to their homes that were stolen as they were sent to refugee camps over the past 50 years. And, Gaza's been an open air prison, and now they're just obliterating everybody. It's full on ethnic cleansing. Many of the quotes by Israel's higher ups, don't even deny that this is, they don't use the words ethnic cleansing, but they get goddamn close. And it's just disgusting. I mean, the average percentage of children killed in modern warfare is 6 to 8%. In Gaza, in this obliteration by Israel, it's over 40%. It's actually nearing 50% are all children that they're massacring. I could go through the details for hours, but I think an important point that people should know about Israel and the difference between Israel and just Jews writ large is that not all Jews are Zionists. There are millions of anti-Zionist Jews. There are very Orthodox anti-Zionist Jews as well.
We just had a big argument on that on the show about that topic specifically.
Yeah, and another important point is there are more Zionist Christians in America than there are Jews in the world. There are evangelical Christians, especially, although many Christians that are not evangelical are huge supporters of Israel. So there, and most of the funding, much of the funding that's sent from the United States, meaning individual funding, not government funding, sent to Israel comes from evangelical Christians who believe, in the strict reading of however they've decided to read the Bible, that the Jews need to be in Israel. All the Jews need to be in Israel in order for the end times to come. So evangelical Christians believe that if they can get all the Jews to Israel, then the Jews can burn in a fiery hell. So they support the state of Israel. It is such an insane and backward situation. But, the people who think that Israel equals all Jews, they've fallen for a propaganda that Israel has put forward. Israel wants everyone to think that Israel equals all Jews, because then they can speak for all Jews, and then any attack or critique of the Israeli state is anti-Semitism.
Attack on Jews.
It's attack on Jews.
I'm with you on that as well. Yeah, for sure. And it's basically, again, if you can get people to the rhetoric to be, and you saw it like up until like Ari Shafir went on Howie Mandel and it just seemed to slow down after that. But before it was like, I can't walk the streets. I can't walk the streets. And you just saw like Jews in New York going, I'm a Jew. Let's see me walk the streets. And like, he just walked the streets and nothing happened to him. But it gets into, and this gets into some, I've been fighting Hitler dick riders on Twitter forever. Like, I can't stand these guys. And this, like, he's just this belief that he's this anomaly of that he had that the bankers didn't control him at all or anything like that. Like every one of these people before him. But the point is, it's like with October 7th, a big part of that is to get all these Jews to think everybody hates them and to get them all to move to Israel. So there is this kind of like Abrahamic prophecy fulfillment that goes back to what you're talking about. And it's like a big part of that is to scare Jews into moving to Israel to fulfill this prophecy. So
either moving there or at least supporting the Israeli, actions and their genocidal intent. Yeah.
And just the things that they are saying, it's like the things that are being said by high ups is like nothing I've ever heard any politician allowed to say ever. Even the Turks versus the Armenians, there's a level of discord that is kept kind of, a lack of a better word, professional, why they discuss the other side. This is you do not see that with how Israeli politicians talk about Palestinians like they're literal animals.
Yeah, calling them animals, calling them cockroaches, saying that no one is innocent in Gaza, meaning a one-day-old baby is guilty of something in Gaza. It's just straight up genocidal talk. It's how you try and justify genocide. And also in terms of the propaganda that's been put forward, we've seen, as those of us who in last October, November, were saying, we're pointing out the Hannibal Directive, that the Israeli military, if anyone is taken hostages, they have a directive to kill everyone, to kill the hostage taker, and anyone around. And that is how the IDF operates. And we were saying this, October, November, December, and we were called insane. We were called conspiracy theorists. It has now been admitted or covered in reports by the UN, by Israel, by the IDF has even admitted the Hannibal Directive. It just, at every level, it's been admitted that. Now, they may not admit the amount of Hannibal Directive that was used, the number of Israeli citizens that were killed by Israeli military on October 7th. That can continue to be debated, but they have admitted that Hannibal Directive was used and that they killed a lot of their own civilians. You have witness testimonies, and these are from pro-Israel Israelis that were involved in October 7th. They were either taken hostage and escaped, or were in some of the kibbutzes that were attacked. They have said that they were struck by the IDF, that IDF helicopters were gunning down everyone at that Nova Music Festival, shooting the cars. By the way, the hundreds of cars that were at that festival, Israel shredded them and buried them in an undisclosed location. And they said they did it to respect the dead.
I mean, they just think we're stupid. They just think we're dumb. And it just blows me away. Anytime you hide the evidence, it is like you're trying to cover up something. And it's just really sad and pathetic. And the way people still, I mean, even a lot of the Israeli defenders early seem to be somewhat really, really quiet. And you just start getting into, and I hate doing this because, it's so funny. People are like, oh, dude, you're afraid to just call out the Jews. I'm like, dude, because I feel this about the Jews the same way I feel about how Twitter treated white people in 2018, where all white people were involved in everything a white person ever did of all time. And they all just signed off on it all the time. And no matter where you were economically on the ladder, you were still involved in the worst of the worst that the elites were doing. And I just don't believe that.
Yeah,
I believe
as if every Italian is Christopher Columbus and commits genocide.
Or just every Italian's in the mob. Like every one of them is a mob. It's like, it's so ridiculous. And it just again goes back to like, not all Zionists are Jews, not all Jews are Zionists. Exactly what you said. And like the low-hanging fruit that a lot of people like to cling to is like really just part of the divide and conquer to get us all to fight with each other. So, but when I say stuff like, and I say stuff like, if you take a look at like the USS Liberty, JFK, 9/11, we see fingerprints of Israel on so much of that. And it's just like, my whole opinion, and this is why I have people like you on, or, we just dropped a really like what I call dangerous episode. I have these conversations because you have to have these conversations. You're never going to fix anything if you're not allowed to discuss every and all issues. And people like you do that. You do it from the left, okay? And that's why you're important. And that's why your work on RT was so important. And I used to hear people just say just crazy shit about RT News. I go, tell me how it's any different than the BBC. Explain that to me, how we're getting a foreign news. It's a foreign news agency. Right. How is it any different?
Right. And in fact, I was at a panel once that had the head of RT and one of the heads of BBC on the panel. And the head of RT was being accused of propaganda or something. And RT said, look, we're the Russian view of by the way, I'm exempting my show, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the head of RT said we're the Russian view of the world in terms of RT International News, and the BBC says they're the British view of the world. And in fact, the BBC used to have on their website the British view of the world, and so it's like they were saying we're no different than the BBC. However, I was not the Russian view of the world because I am an American in America, writing American, covering American news, and I never once, I was operating out of DC. I never once was told what to say, was told how to say it, was told I had to cover something. It was the polar opposite of what I know to be true of every mainstream corporate airwave in America. We know they tell them what to say. We know they give them marching orders. Like, that has been outed again and again, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC or all the others. Because, partially because I was a comedy show, partially because I'm an American in America, but I was never told what to say. And if I had been told what to say, I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, I remember because we talked very early. You were nice enough to come on to my show when it was brand new, and we discussed all that, and I totally agreed with what you said. You were like, I don't get any notes. I'm able to do what I want to do, and that's probably why your show flourished, because no suits were fucking with it. That's why Dave Chappelle's show and South Park crush, because you don't have to take notes from people who can't do what you want to do. But I want to get into your thoughts on AIPAC and what that your just thoughts on what they're allowed to do and their influence on us.
I mean, AIPAC's hugely influential. I'd say the biggest way is just the way that they can control Congress. They brag about the fact that every congressperson, I don't know what they say their percentage is, 98% or 95%. Any congressperson they support will win. Basically, it's so much money at their backs that they just can't lose. But what's not being said is AIPAC often can just make someone lose. They don't have to make the other guy win. They can just put enough money into various kinds of ads and things to make sure that someone will lose. The latest one that they took out is Jamal Bowman, very popular, and yet much of the money, and this gets into a larger discussion of how money owns our government, but much of the money much of these races, it's like 10 to 1 the money, 10 times spent as much as the other guy. But anyway, AIPAC's been around for years and years, used to have Zionist in its name, but then changed their name, so it no longer does. And they are the definition, AIPAC and the other Israel lobby groups, the definition of foreign agents. They are a lobbying group lobbying for a foreign country, Israel. And yet they do not register as foreign agents,
it's crazy
which the U.S. makes other groups register. There was a big fight in 2016 where they forced RT News. By the way, I haven't been with RT for 2 years since they were shut down in America, but forced them to register as foreign agents. And yet AIPAC, which is the most obvious foreign agent there is, doesn't have to register. So they have a huge impact over our Congress and over our politics and over the propaganda and et cetera. But, I view Israel as just part of the U.S. empire. Now, it is a more influential part of the U.S. empire than a lot of European countries or something that are also now basically vassal states to the U.S. empire. If you look at NATO and the fact that U.S. controls NATO, et cetera. But they're more important. They're probably on the second notch of the U.S. empire, but I don't view it the other way around. I don't view Israel as controlling the U.S. empire. I view the U.S. empire as owning and using a lot of countries as kind of puppet governments.
Hey guys, real quick, I'll tell you about our friends at Fume, the innovative, award-winning flavored air device. Let me tell you about Fume. Listen, have you heard that flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits, led by our sponsor, Fume. Dude, we love Fume. Look at that website. It's so pretty. Flavored air isn't like vaping. If vapor was compared to sticky soda, Fume cores are closer to herbal teas. I like that. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint or orange vanilla. With flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, no vapor, no combustion. Thank you, dude. Fume continuously invest in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products, okay? Fume is backed by doctors in the U.S., all right? Dude, we love all, orange vanilla all day, every day, okay? Orange vanilla all day, every day, dude.
That one right there, right?
Well, look at that, bro.
Oh.
That is a party in my mouth and everybody's coming. You know it, okay? Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use tinfoil to get a free gift with your journey pack. Head to tryfume.com. That's tryfume.com and use the code tinfoil or scan the QR code on screen, okay, to get a free gift with your order today, okay? Bang, bang, pow, guys. I love Fume. You love Fume. Johnny loves Fume. Look at all their 5-star reviews. Fume is the award-winning flavored air device, and we thank them for sponsoring this show. Now, do you think that is... So I'm reading this book called Final Judgment, and it's basically about the role of Israel in the assassination of JFK. And it's very interesting. And there was a whole part where what JFK really basically wanted was to have Israel become the 51st state, and just, and I've always said this, and Johnny pushes back on it a little bit, but it is called the state of Israel, which to me is kind of interesting for sure.
But you think that means that it's literally a state, right?
Well, I find it to be very interesting. You go, is Israel a state of the United States? Is the United States under control of Israel? And I would just say that's probably at the highest levels, these, bankers that own both of them. If you were going to say, Sam, what do you think Israel is really about? I think Israel obviously is a holy land for all the Abrahamic religions, of course, but it's also a very, very powerful trade route that is the quickest way to get goods from Asia and Africa into Europe. And, right now they have to use the Suez Canal, which is kind of janky because it's like one way there and then then for 12 hours, it's one way back. And Israel wanted to make a canal that goes right through Gaza that is both ways at the same time, which is quicker, more efficient. And
by the way, that's the map that Netanyahu held up in front of the UN like 12 days before October 7th. It's a map where he basically put that line across it, the canal you're talking about, and there is no Palestine on that map. He has literally erased Palestine, Gaza, West Bank from the map.
And
can I just say too, you got the state of Kuwait, the state of Qatar, the state of Palestine. So there are other countries with that name.
All right, I'm not
Formatted
getting.
that way.
I've never heard that, but that's fine. I'll accept that. And but that just to me, it's like who's running? It's like in Mad Max in the Terror Dome, like Master Blaster. Who is Master and who is Blaster?
Well, to me, what answers that question is it is these billionaires, and perhaps one of the best examples is Sheldon Adelson, who's now dead, but his wife continues to do his work. Sheldon Adelson founded and owns the most read newspaper in Israel. So he is the biggest propagandist in Israel. He also, owns newspapers in the U.S., owns obviously casinos, massive billionaire, largest donor when he was alive to Donald Trump, giving $100 million himself to Donald Trump. So he's kind of owning the U.S. system and the Israeli system at the same time. And that's how you end up with I don't know who's controlling who. Well, it's these billionaires that are controlling really both.
Yeah, at the highest levels for sure. And then you get into what the Federal Reserve and its role in basically funding almost everything that everybody despises going on in the United States. And I would tell you that these massive aid bills that get sent to Israel, a big chunk of that money gets probably sent right back to AIPAC, which they use to influence our government and buy off these politicians. And I think it's just, the Fed funny money, which is now backed by nothing. And we can get into, if you want to talk about, the petrodollar and what's going on with that right now. I think that's a really interesting discussion.
This is a massive shift in geopolitical economics. The U.S., and I'm sure you've talked about this on your show before, but the U.S. basically left the gold standard and then needed a way to make the dollar incredibly powerful so that they could print as much as they wanted and it would not lose value. Most countries, if they print some crazy amount of their money, it becomes borderline meaningless or crazy inflation. The U.S. needed a way to not have that happen. And so apparently Henry Kissinger was the architect, came up with the idea, well, the most sold and bought commodity around the world is oil. It's only going to increase. So if the U.S. dollar is the thing that is used for sales of oil, then the U.S. dollar will always be immensely powerful. So that is the term petrodollar. Now, of course, because the U.S. is the petrodollar, it then became the global reserve currency. It is the number one currency that nations put excess money into because they know it's stable. It's stable because of the petrodollar. It's a giant circle jerk. And they then, this deal, it came because of Saudi Arabia. Kissinger comes up with the idea. They go to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was an enemy of the U.S. at the time, but they said, basically, we will give you military guarantees. We will never attack you. We will protect you. We will protect your interests. If you buy and sell oil, mainly sell U.S. dollars, petrodollar. Once Saudi Arabia made the switch, the other OPEC countries did, most of them. But if you look at the countries, now the U.S. has couped and overthrown just a countless number of countries. But if you look at the ones, if you look at the ones that have been fully attacked, invaded, destroyed, and gutted, or the ones that like the U.S. just can't seem to ever move on from, they're just always furious at, it's all countries that have a large amount of oil and buy or sell it outside of the petrodollar. So it hurts the petrodollar's existence. These countries are Libya, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Venezuela. These are the ones that the U.S. has saved the most ire for, killing 1 million people in Iraq. The U.S. has killed upwards of 6 million in the global war on terror. But so then just recently, just a few weeks ago, the 50-year petrodollar deal, I mean, maybe it had been re-upped in the meantime, but whatever, it ended. And Saudi Arabia did not re-sign. Saudi Arabia has joined BRICS. They are now selling some of their oil outside of U.S. dollars in rubles and yuan. This is the thing that allows the U.S. to spend just crazy amounts of money and not have the dollar become meaningless. And it is collapsing in real time right now. And what was the other thing I was going to say? That so Saudi Arabia is selling outside of it. And anyway, this is a major shift in everything. And by the way, the mainstream media, right after that happened, the mainstream media first tried to not cover it. There was zero coverage of the petrodollar deal ending. Then there was one NASDAQ article and one like Yahoo Finance article about it. And then once they realized they couldn't keep a cap on this petrodollar deal ending, they then put out some articles saying that the petrodollar deal never existed. Like there are Market Watch. There are Market Watch articles saying, oh, no, it's not a real thing. It was made up. And you're like, guys, if that's the best you got, that's sad propaganda.
Well, it's basically sorcery at that point in the fact that they know all they got to do is say something and it doesn't even have to be true. And there's just a bunch of idiots out there that will not only believe it, but they'll parrot it to anybody that will listen, and they'll just It's like you just study the October 7th, you watch them systematically put out all these stories within 5 days to a week, attack, slaughter, rape, murder, planned, everything. You got, all of a sudden they activate all of their controlled ops within the legacy media. They're putting out stories. People who weren't even ever journalists are suddenly getting giant opinion pieces in legacy media. And then it turns out they're IDF. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they'll just believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, for those who only believe things coming out of the New York Times, etc. The New York Times has run an article on how Israel knew about the plans for October 7th a year in advance, like detailed plans a year in advance. So that's even the New York Times. Now, that was one article and they, hide it behind 1,000 others. But I'm just saying, like, that's even gotten into the liberal media that Israel knew about this. There were training videos with the hang gliders and stuff that were posted on Instagram and shit. Like, this was not a secret.
And when you bring up Libya and all that, there's a very famous meme that you could look up that if you find out what countries didn't have centralized banks before 2001, it lines up perfectly with everyone that we went in except for Iran, and which this is to me why I think they're losing their ability to manifest us to do whatever they want. Right.
Those countries outside of the Bank of International Settlements, which is the large tentacles of the World Bank and everything. And Libya, I always found this funny. Within days of the moment that NATO goes into Libya, the rebels are taking over, but it's like days. And the first thing, so they haven't won Libya yet. It's not over. They immediately set up a central bank.
Yeah. Like they don't even wait. It's just like they buy just they get a little piece of land. They already set up shop. It's already there. It's like setting up a McDonald's right in the middle in the jungle, even though there's nobody there. You just got to get that corporate footprint in. But yeah, that gets into all that, man. And you just start studying what's going on with that. And it's just kind of crazy because I don't know how we save the United States. Like everyone's like the empire is dying. If we study history, the empires don't die. They just kind of rebrand themselves into different things. And I think we're going to just become the stormtroopers for the international banking and corporate cartels. They're going to send our sons and daughters or the sons and daughters of immigrants into, Gestapo, all these other countries for their natural resources. And that's what I think is going to happen. You kind of see it build up. Or do you have any hope for change at all? Because I do think we're waking up. I don't think the same game plan could happen. Even, let's just say, if God forbid that the assassination attempt and whatever your thoughts on that is, went through. Let's say it was a real assassination attempt, because some people don't think it is, but let's say it's a real assassination attempt and they actually get them. Like, we live in a whole different world. It's a whole different world.
I have no idea what would go down after that. I feel like you could see civil war or something. I don't know what would have happened. But in terms of, there's a lot of question marks as to what would follow.
But the reason I bring that up is like the narrative is already that it was an inside job there, and even though these idiots are trying to float out, oh, it's Iran. Iran.
That's the dumbest shit.
And everyone's like, nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it except for bots who don't have a picture or a real name on their Twitter. Nobody's buying it. So that narrative is that. I mean, their ability to manipulate us in that way seems to be dead. Like they used up all their collateral at 9/11. They got us to agree to go bomb people and what I consider a genocide in the Middle East, 4 million people dead. Iraqis, that's a genocide, everybody. We committed genocide, and maybe the karma energy of what we did over there is why it's so crazy over here. So we committed genocide. We bought into that. There were no weapons of mass destruction as under what we understand as weapons of mass destruction. They weren't there. They lied to us. I feel like they've lost our ability to just blindly follow them into every war they want, and that's why we're not in war with Iran, and we're not like having boots on the ground in Ukraine. What are your thoughts on any of that?
I mean, they've lost some ability, and obviously they used the Russiagate bullshit to act like everything that's online that the ruling elite propaganda doesn't agree with must be Russian misinformation, which is laughable. And I feel like most intelligent people have now seen through all of that. But unfortunately, these wars do continue. Like, the war machine continues. It doesn't matter who's in that Oval Office, Obama, Trump, Biden. Obama's last year, we dropped 26,000 bombs. Trump's first year, we dropped 40,000 bombs. It just seems to continue. Ukraine, this proxy war, which has killed hundreds of thousands, and the U.S. is not willing to let go. They're the ones keeping it going. If the U.S. were to say tomorrow there needs to be a peace plan, which is ultimately where it'll end, next year, 5 years, 10 years from now, it's got to end at a peace table somewhere. If the U.S. said it was okay, this would end tomorrow. Same with the genocide in Gaza. The U.S. has enough control over Israel that they're shipping them the bombs to drop. 36, shipment of missiles every 36 hours go into Israel to drop on children. So the U.S. has control to end some of this or slow it, and that does not seem to be the path they're going. To answer what you asked earlier about the empire and the hope, my hope is for the dwindling of the U.S. empire, but that doesn't mean the collapse of, a country.
United States.
Yeah, a country that we can all, have peace and equality and comfort in. It just means that we don't need to control the world, and we don't need to obliterate every country that doesn't let us rape the resources. It's just a different way of existing.
I agree with that. And that's I've said that before. People think end of an empire means end of the country. I don't see it that way. I do believe that we are in a giant demoralization campaign right now to get us to beg to get rid of our constitution and bring in martial law so that they can just, just destroy every ounce of freedom that we have and completely control us. So, we have an election coming up. I don't trust the 2020 election results. I don't think they're real. I think there's a lot of stuff that makes no sense to me. It's very similar to me to the JFK elections, where he obviously had a lot of people behind the scenes. Again, if you read Final Judgment, he had the mob, Meyer Lansky's crime syndicate, and the Israeli lobby working behind him. And then he ended up burning all of them as soon as he got elected, which is a big reason why he found himself where he was. What do you think is going on with our elections, and what do you foresee happening in the next election cycle? Do we have an election?
I'm one of these nutbags who thinks that we have two parties that are actually one party. There is not a lot of core differences between these parties, and many of the core differences that people point to are not actually differences if you look them up. Biden has deported more immigrants than Trump did. Biden has actually allowed more drilling and export of more fossil fuels than Trump did. This is not saying Trump was a environment-loving anti-oil guy. This is saying that both parties allow for endless war, allow for or push for endless aggression towards immigrants, the corporate destruction of our world, the fossil fuel pumping, which also fossil fuels have to keep pumping in order for the petrodollar to be strong. So there's no intent to move towards a better world on that front. I just don't see a lot of difference. The difference that people point to are largely kind of smaller social issues, which, okay, if, the trans story time hour is a big deal to you and that's your one issue you're voting on, then I guess maybe Trump is more upset about that. But I just the 90% of the structural issues of this country and the world do not change depending on who's in that Oval Office, unless you were to talk maybe about some of the third parties running. But of course, our entire system is rigged to ensure that those third parties could never win. Just getting on the ballot, they're not allowed on the debate stages. Jill Stein, I did an event with where I did some comedy on a Jill Stein event in 2012, the day after she tried to attend the Obama Mitt Romney debate, and or McCain or whoever it was, and they arrested her for just trying to be at that debate. She was on 85% of the ballots across the country. They locked her to a chair in a police basement for 8 hours while the debate went on, because that's...
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Dude, and you can still look up Guardian articles. It happened. It's not Mandela effect. And yet no one knows that, like, if a third party gets anywhere near having any influence, they arrest them. The Democratic Party threatened to make RFK Jr. pay for the entire primary, which would have cost him millions of dollars. It's crazy.
Well, and the only you can try to do like an insurgent candidacy inside one of the parties. Ron Paul did it, and I firsthand watched them change the rules of the party to make sure that his supporters were disenfranchised, literally, and removed from the organization. And that happened the first time around in 2008. And then when he ran again in 2012, they said, okay, well, we're going to become integral to the party apparatus. And then they just ignored all their own rules at that point. They'll do anything to avoid that. Even the appearance that kind of thing can work is threatening to them, and they'll do anything to avoid it. It's no chance.
Ron Paul was to the Republican Party what Bernie Sanders was to the Democratic Party. Too threatening to them, and they had to they change all the rules in some crazy ways. I mean, the DNC admitted in court in a court case that came after 2016 that they have no obligation. DNC lawyers said they have no obligation to have a fair primary or any primary, and they're legally allowed to just pick the candidate. So it's absolutely rigged. And, in terms of what actually happened in 2020, I don't know. I know that a lot of what Trump put forward was as his view of the rigging was utter bullshit. But I also have been saying since, 2012, before that, 2008, I don't know when I started covering it, that our voting machines are a fucking joke. I mean, this is hidden code that you can never see. No one's ever allowed to see whether these votes were actually correctly counted. And I've been saying this for years and years, and suddenly it becomes a Trump talking point, as if you doubt these machines, then you're pro-Trump. And it's like, no, we should have legitimate elections. Like, these machines are laughable.
Yes. And they're just going to keep doing it until a breaking point, man. And we just live in what I think is happening is that they're trying to pollute our heads with such useless sewage and misinformation so that people don't know if they're coming or going. When we talk about this assassination attempt, I've never seen so much misinformation coming out instantly, so no one knew exactly what was happening. And my whole theory is that there's a war on our minds, a war on our spirit, and they just want us so dumb, unhealthy, full of anxiety that we're not capable of understanding how our government works. That we're incapable of being able to follow along and actually stop whatever these elites, these oligarchies are doing. They just don't want to go. And so when people go, hey man, if we cure cancer, all right, the economy is going to crash. If we win the drug war, the economy is going to crash. If we stop war, the economy is going to crash. Well, I'm thinking that maybe our economy needs to crash and needs to be redesigned because it's built on suffering and pain. And I just feel like people can't pay attention to. So what are your thoughts on that? Everything with the Pentagon, all that stuff.
Dude, absolutely. It is built on suffering. It's built on sucking the life out of 90% of us in order to enrich a tiny group. You have 66% or 61% or something of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Roughly the same percentage can't afford their own house. Meanwhile, we have 17 million vacant houses across America. So that shows you how poorly our economy is working. Economics used to be the study of how to make a society work. That used to be what it was about. Now it's just about enriching people who are so rich they could never begin to spend all of the money they have. It is just a full-scale exploitation of all of us. And a lot of what you're talking about is just to make sure that we don't unite against that ruling class, against the ruling oligarchs. It's just designed to divide us and make sure we keep infighting rather than actually addressing the class war that has been done against us. It's not there should be class war. There has been class war perpetrated by the billionaires and multi millionaires for generations now. And we're just the troglodytes at the bottom that get exploited out of all of it. And so, yeah, it's just designed to divide us and make sure that we don't work together to create a better future, which is absolutely, we're in a post-scarcity world. Like, we're in a world where it would be no problem at all for everyone to have clean water. The estimate of giving the entire world, the number one killer of people across the world is clean water, dirty water. To give everybody clean water across the world is like 30 billion a year. It's like pocket change for our Pentagon. But they have no interest in doing that. Our Pentagon, you mentioned the Pentagon. I've done a lot of episodes on that. If you include the black budget, it's over $1 trillion a year. For people to try and understand what $1 trillion is, if you make $40,000 a year after taxes, to make $1 trillion, you'd have to work for 25 million years. Okay, it's a laughable amount of money, and they have $21 trillion of unaccountable adjustments in their books that have just like disappeared. But on top of that, they've only been audited. They were legally required to be audited starting in the 90s. They never did it. They finally started being audited like 5-6 years ago. They've been audited 5 times. Every single time they spend millions of dollars. It takes over 1,000 auditors. And every single time they have a press conference where they say, we failed our audit. End of story. That is all the information we get out of the Pentagon. This last time when they said they failed their audit, they said they can't account for 63% of all assets that the Pentagon has. Their entire, and when I say assets, I don't mean hypothetical zeros and ones on a computer. I mean fucking Black Hawk helicopters, tanks, buildings. Literally, they find whole buildings that they didn't know they had. It's just like breathtaking, the amount of some of it's waste, but most of it's corruption. Most of this goes into the pockets of weapons contractors, which are making trillions a year. And of course, that's another reason the war machine has to continue. I mean, the amount of money they've made from Ukraine or stolen from Ukraine, the amount of money they make by shipping bombs around the world is just unbelievable. So they have to keep these wars going.
And people don't realize that, when you go, okay, we're giving aid to the Ukraine, what you're really doing is you're just having one hand, the Federal Reserve, handed to the other hand, the military industrial complex, and that's how the money works. Bang, oh, dude, here's some aid. Bang, here's some weapon. And then the military industrial complex sends out weapons. It doesn't get sent. The majority of it doesn't get sent to the everyday Ukrainian. And here's the crazy thing. If you didn't think the system was set up to destroy your dollar, to print so much money that your dollar eventually is worth nothing, so that you have to pay for a car at the price that your grandparents paid for a house, okay, because your dollar doesn't go as far, then ask yourself, why doesn't the Ukraine create a centralized bank? If we're putting centralized banks everywhere, why doesn't the Ukraine put a centralized bank? Why doesn't Israel create a centralized bank where they can just print all the money they want? If we're going to do Fed funny money, why can't they do that? Because the system is set up that they want to print so much money that the average dollar isn't even worth what it used to be, which was a certain amount of gold. The gold's gone. The oil's gone. Now you go, people, what is the dollar backed by? And they're all just like, American might, man. They just show me pictures of tanks and angry bazookas and shit like that. And I'm just like, no, dude, that's not it at all. It's not worth anything. It's not. And it's symbolism now. They've just gotten rid of any reason to have some kind of control on how much they print. Now they can print as much as they want. And I'm not saying they want the petrodollar to go away because that's how they can control people. But it's definitely allows them now to print without giving a shit, or the dollar completely collapses and then our economy is in deep shit and we're just straight up Latin America at some point.
I mean, it could go there.
We'll see. It's kind of crazy. So what else do we got left? Yeah, that's it, man. I just think it's crazy times. And look, for me, is there any part of this that is spiritual for you, Lee? Are you a spiritual man at all? Do you have any faith in anything at all? Or, I mean, I don't ask that to be like disrespectful, but do you have are you spiritual at all in any way or form?
I mean, like it's interesting. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I probably would have said, no. But I think I've found some spirituality in just, I don't know, life in humanity and day-to-day actions, not in the disgustingness of the ruling elite and our wars and stuff, but just in day-to-day human beings and in the joy and love we find with each other and in fighting for a better world. I definitely find something important to that. And I think that's where I see spirituality and see hope. It's like even for people that, you take out like discussions of these politics and you walk outside and you meet someone on the street and it's like 90% of people are good to each other. It's just when you get into like, oh, wait a second, you believe in this or you're undocumented. Well, now I hate you. But a minute ago, you shared a muffin with me and I liked you. It's so there is a lot of hope there. It's just that the interests that are destroying our world around us are incredibly powerful, and that is a tough thing to wake up every day and think about.
Lee, sharing muffins with strangers. That's something we learned here today.
I just walk up and I mash it in their face.
I love it. I love it. Final thing. So you're from the left. This show, people think I'm right. I'm really not. I believe in leaving people alone. Don't hurt people, particularly children. You won't hear anything from me. Whatever you do in your own home is your own thing. That's none of my business. Is there anything that you've witnessed from afar that you would say that's conspiratorial, but it ended up being right? Is there anything that you were like, okay, man, they got that right, or hey, man, I could believe into that. I could see how that could be true.
You're asking about whether I've seen a right-wing conspiracy that ended up being true.
Or I don't know if you automatically see all conspiracies as right wing, or are there? And this isn't me being.
I think half of the things I said to you, people view me as a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, for sure. When people always say, "Oh," like Jimmy Dore, who I love with all my heart, is always like, and they see me as a conspiracy theorist. I go, I think that's a good thing. I think that is in today it's
because these are conspiracies.
Yeah. So, but is there anything, let's say, okay, so fine, we do agree there are conspiracies that definitely happen. Are there any right wings where you're like, okay, they might be onto something, maybe, and it's okay if you don't, but is there anywhere where you're like, okay, I can see that?
I guess it's tough to define exactly in a way, but there have been many conspiracies that I have been in a group that ended up being far more right wing than left wing. For example, Russiagate. I ended up being in the middle of that in a way because I was working at RT, but it's like unconnected to RT. I just knew from day one. I was like, Trump had nothing to do with Russia and Russia had nothing to do with his election. And every day you saw this shit that they were pushing collapse. And, I guess 90% of the people that now know that Russiagate has all collapsed are all right wingers, which is ridiculous because it's just simply the facts. But no, I was there from day one saying this smells like an epic load of bullshit. And sure enough, it was an epic load of bullshit.
It's crazy to me that the FISA warrants people aren't losing their mind on that. I don't know if as human beings right now, and maybe because you and I are blessed to have more politically engaged crowds come see us. So they will go with us on some political tangents that maybe if we just walk to a regular comedy club on a regular night, they may not be with us on that. But I just can't believe that nobody sees that the Pfizer wiretaps, which was completely set up by them planting Carter Page on Trump's election team, wasn't a bigger story, because to me, it's even bigger than Watergate. And Watergate isn't even what they told us. Watergate is basically, in my humble opinion, they heard a bunch of shit through escorts and they had to give a story. But Watergate seems to be Russiagate should be much bigger than Watergate, and nobody seems to care. Does that make you sad?
Yeah, the collapse of Russiagate should be a major story because they spent 4 years pushing that garbage, and just every tenant of it has collapsed. The Russian bots, the Hamilton 68, the Facebook. Most people don't know that the indictments that Mueller brought against that clickbait farm in St. Petersburg, they ultimately, like quietly on a Friday night, dropped all the indictments because they had no evidence. Like most people don't. It's amazing. You talk to liberals, you talk to my own family, they think that Mueller indicted and like arrested people. And it's like, no, literally, those indictments were dropped because it was a fucking clickbait farm. Anyway, it infuriates me that like that should be a major story that our mainstream media push that garbage. I mean, it's on the level of WMD to push that for 4 years and then be proven completely wrong. None of those media personalities should ever be allowed to speak on air again.
Do you feel that people have gotten too emotional when it comes to politics, that we can't have discussions on issues that without people's emotions flooding them and just them just getting all wound up on stuff that most people would find as factual? Like, can you solve a problem if you can't talk about it?
Yeah, people shut down. I mean, in terms of getting emotional, I think I get pretty emotional, so I'm fine with getting emotional. I think we should, but
emotional where you become like you can't think straight. You can't think.
You won't speak to the person or those kind of things. Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a problem where we've gotten to the point that it's like, oh, I don't agree with them on this one issue, so I will never listen to that human being ever again, even though I already knew I agreed with them on 90% of other issues. It's like, I think to some degree, we should try and work together and figure out the things we can work together on. And I think that's incredibly important. And part of that is a divide and conquer of a ruling elite that wants us to never speak to the other person if they're, wrong about something.
I'm telling you this, dude. Just came out on my phone. Biden test positive for COVID. I'm telling you, he's going to step down. It just everything is lining up that this guy's going to step down.
Even the fucking goon himself, Adam Schiff, said Biden should step down.
I just think this has all been part of the plan.
Lee, I got one question for you. I got one question. I was watching before we came on. I watched your last video about Cuba only homeless, and you said the U.S. can't. You don't think they can? Or you don't think they want to? You think that's a possibility?
Sorry, something cut out. What did you say?
I was watching the last video about how Cuba solved homelessness. I was just wondering, do you think you wrote U.S. can't? You think is they can't, they don't want to, or
do you think they can? Do you think America can solve? Do you think that either they can, and do you think they will try to solve homelessness?
They never will. They could easily solve it, and in fact, they did solve it. They solved it in Utah, I believe it was. Now, it wasn't 100% perfect, but it was about a 95% perfect solution. They basically, and get this, I know this is going to sound crazy, they took every chronically homeless person and they gave them an apartment. And they gave them a caseworker because many of them are mentally ill, not all of them. And many of them have chronic issues that need help. So they gave them an apartment and caseworker. It saved the state money because the state wasn't spending on emergency services and everything else that have to do with homeless, policing and everything. It saved the state money, and they were able to get 95% of the people off the streets and give them a functional life. And guess what? They then stopped doing that because it was working.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's a spiritual battle, dude. We're up against demonic forces that want to kill happiness. Lee, we got to do this more often. Thank you so much for coming on. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you so much. This has been a fun discussion. I live stream every day at rumble.com/Lee Camp, as well as on youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. But also my podcasts, I had to rename one because they banned it. But my podcasts are The Lee Camp Show, depending on where you're at, and Moment of Clarity. and also government secrets.
So, that's great. Are you still doing your show with Graham Elwood?
Yeah, that's called Government Secrets.
Okay.
We cover U.S. history that the government largely does not want us to know about.
Tell Graham I say hello. Always a pleasure. Okay, man. Thank you guys. And real quick, yeah, let's do this breakdown. All right, what'd you guys think? Lee Camp back, getting some lefties on here. That's what I like. That's what we need. I know we're gonna get yelled at. Buddy, you gotta trust me, guys. You gotta trust me. I know what I'm doing with this show. I'm trying to give you the good stuff from both sides. I think it's important to hear both sides. What are your guys' thoughts?
Canceled. One of the more canceled than you, I'd say. He goes hard a little bit. And
I am pretty canceled, bro.
Yeah.
Meta has a real rock hard little boner for me, dude.
YouTube too. I mean, I've just watched your subscribers, even though every month it's like, yeah, you gain subscribers. Still just that somehow miraculously never gets above like 142 or whatever.
It's and dude,
doesn't make any
everyone I
sense.
see is just constantly celebrating all the followers they have now. Like I have friends of mine who used to open for me. They're at 500,000 followers on Facebook, and it's just like
how much would you pay if I like, let's say I knew someone from Facebook and they're like, yo, he wants some money. How much would you think it cost you? Because it's costing you money. This is costing you money in the long run.
I would pay $20.
No, come on,
dude. I already paid $3,000 to get my Instagram back, and they
Can't
fucking
believe you
hate.
did that.
That was
dude,
crazy.
I mean, dude, I just handle everything stupid. Like, I just love to do experiments.
I know.
And,
like the other day when you posted your Explore page and you got shadow banned, I was like, was it worth it, Sam?
XG, how much commission did you get to recommend that guy to him? Fix his Instagram. Oh, was it the other way around? How much? Okay, I thought it was the other. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
he
so
recommended me.
That's
and
for
then-
sure a scam, though. For sure. Like
No,
they find people who know other people.
on Instagram are obviously making money, or they did for a while.
Yeah, they got us. They were like headquarters in Canada. Send this money here, and there
I mean,
we go.
they fixed your problem, though, right?
They fixed it. I got to give it to them. They came through, which was not a scam. A scam is when you don't get what you.
Yeah, that's true. XG, that's true.
I didn't
Yeah,
feel
they just-
scammed.
I love Lee Camp. I would have.
Extortion.
I didn't want to get into some weirdness with him. You know,
Like what?
I still think he's pro-vaccine. You know,
Oh, boy.
I'm not really in. You know, we have enough people come on here and talk about this and that. So, but I would love to know that thing. I just feel like I just want people to come out here. My show is about helping people shine. So to the best of my abilities, unless they say something I wholeheartedly disagree with. I like to present them in the best light possible.
No, I mean, and you think about it. He came in here saying he was Jew and that they were doing a genocide. So that was a little weird thing for me. Usually it's no, it's not a genocide.
Well, it is crazy that just on the last episode where where Stu's like, oh, she's a Jew, like that, like because I'm dating a Jew. Suddenly I'm compromised. I just don't get it. I mean, what episodes do I have to do? How many? And I love Stu. I love Stu. Okay, I enjoyed him both being on our podcast and me being on his podcast, even though he's 45 minutes late. But that's okay. Don't mind me.
Was he really?
Oh yeah, you remember? Like he's like, please, we have it
Yeah.
for 2 hours. Please be there on time. So I'm like, okay, I'll be there on time. And then he was 45 minutes late. I was like,
That's so
what?
funny.
What? Are you serious? Are you serious? Which is fine. No hate.
You're super compromised, Sam. You're super compromised. Your girlfriend's Jewish and I'm illegal. Well, more like yeah.
I just have all the fucking worst of the worst around me, huh? Johnny's gay. I mean, I got gay and illegal. And
But don't forget about Mark. You can't forget about Mark.
Oh, by the way, Mark informed me he's opening up his show with rap every time now.
Oh
Rapping?
shit. Yeah.
Can you go find My Family Thinks I'm Crazy? Find the last episode. Can you do that real quick,
Is
Johnny?
it freestyle or
Yeah.
Yeah, he's freestyling now.
I have to hear this.
I do too. He
or
wants me to listen. And by the way, I am pro Mark rapping for the record.
For more,
For the
tune into
record.
Broken Simulation because we will go deep on this if this is real. Hold on. I'm working on it.
If his raps are really good,
Oh,
you
hold
can let
on,
him
hold
play
on.
the
Did he
hold
have
on.
Eddie Bravo on?
Yeah, yeah.
How did that happen?
because he cornered Eddie and it was like,
Oh,
come on,
when he was on the.
I'm
I got you.
sure. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, let's share sound.
Hey,
Let's see. Is it the episode
Sam.
with Eddie? It must be, right? All right, let's try this.
Elevate your skincare routine
Oh,
with the
God.
Okay,
6
hold
peptide
on,
skin
hold on,
booster
hold on.
serum
Pass.
from CosRx.
It didn't do that to
Experience
me
the
when I
power of
played
6
it. It went right
peptides
into
in
it.
one bottle, targeting
Come
not
on.
just aging, but also
Hey, Sam.
texture.
Can
If
we
this is any
pass
good,
that?
can you say
We
the
gotta
N-word?
talk about CosRx,
What the hell
the
just
Korean
happened? It won't let
skincare
you
brand
skip the
that's out
ad.
to help
Wow.
you achieve
Okay, can you just keep it
elevate your
down?
skincare
Let me-
routine with this.
That's so annoying. Go ahead. Sorry.
Why is skincare going on Mark's show? Like, is it of their demographic show that Mark has a lot of lady listeners? What if Mark they just love his Nephilim ass? Listen, for the record, Mark does a great show. Everyone loves it. I just want to hear him rap. That's all. I just want to hear him rap.
If it's good, are you as the white guy that says the N-word, will you allow him the right to say it?
Yes,
You don't have that power.
I do.
You've
For
been
a white
allowed
dude,
to,
does-
you've been allowed to say it, but you can't allow other people to say it.
Okay,
There's no way.
I can't give my card to somebody
No.
else.
No. That's like saying, okay, I'm a member of the NRA. I can make other people members of the NRA. That's not how that works. You still have
That's
to
not
apply.
true, dude. That's
to
not
the-
cool.
You still have to apply to the NAACP to be permitted to say the N-word. All right. Let's see. I'm learning about irritating residues right now. These ads are still playing.
Okay, still going. So,
Well-
anyways, so I thought
right.
it was a great conversation with Lee. We love Lee. Lee's always welcome back. I hope you guys enjoy hearing from the other side because, again, like he said, we have way more in common than we have different. Okay,
All right, I got it.
Here we go. It's here.
I don't know if this is it or if this is just his intro.
If I can't talk to my family about this stuff,
Does he have like a
you, man. And I'm
4-minute
I don't know.
intro to his podcast?
I haven't listened. Well, he says he opens up with it.
So who are we talking about today, man?
Chemotherapy to patients who did not.
Now I hear the siren sound, I hear the siren sound, I hear the siren sound. Sound medical malpractice, chemical attacks us, destabilize the axis, madness to the max, time for another vax hit.
It's not bad.
Tragic. It's tragic. It's tragic.
No, it's not bad.
It's tragic.
Criticizing science. I represent science. That's dangerous.
Of course, they feel numb to death. People die in front of them all the time. There's got to be at least one time in human history. At
Oh
least one
shit, he
time
made it after.
where a dude came in, he got in a car wreck. He could have saved him pretty easily. You know, he was fucked up. Let's only
Respect,
do a couple
Mark.
things and we're going to bring him back. He'll be fine. But I bet at least once they were like, fuck this dude, let's make that money. Boom. And they just kill him in the hospital. It seems like they were killing people in the hospital during the scam-demic. They were making $30K per death.
Deadly in terms of unvaccinated people.
I guess that's the end of it. See if there's any more.
You're open
Eddie Bravo, and wow,
No.
what a weekend.
in my ear. I couldn't understand him. She
Nope, that was it. Congratulations, Mark.
Okay. Yeah,
What the world
that's not
needs
bad.
now is more white rappers.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Hey Sam, how long to you do a verse for him?
I cannot rap. It's
No,
the
you-
one thing I know I can't do, and
Yeah.
I'm never gonna do.
Yeah. It's
And
like
Mark is
acting
great.
and
I
singing
thought Mark
together.
was great.
Sam's two
listen,
worst traits. Acting
What?
and singing together is what rap is
don't
like.
forget,
basically.
don't put a third dick in there, and put also spelling. So
Oh, yeah.
acting, spelling.
I take that one. I think I take
Rapping.
that one.
Yeah, we're all retards. We're all retards in here together. So, I thought Mark was great. I thought his rap was great. I was pleasantly surprised, and that's all I had to say about that. And I thought Lee was great. If you go to SamTripoli.com, you'll see all my dates. I want to thank everybody who came to Kansas City again. And then this Tuesday night or tonight or whenever this comes out, dude, go check out Comedy Chaos while you still can. Check out Comedy Chaos while you still can. There we go. Got a great lineup. It's all great. Also, if you go to SamTripoli.com, you will see that I am putting up new premium content all the time. Yes, that is. We listen to me and my friends, Giovanni Vuk and Logan Smith. We are listening to Johnny Cash read the Bible, and we did a bunch of chapters the other day. We're jumping around based on what those guys, because they're taking me through it. So I got Johnny Cash reads the Bible. Then I have Dangerous, which is, again, the only place you're going to hear certain conversations. The places that things that Rockfin won't even tell you. And if you're on Rockfin, I would really appreciate if you just come. If you're there for just Sam Tripoli, come to SamTripoli.com. It's only $8 for 3 episodes a week. And I'm going to, maybe even more, depending on how I feel. And Deep Conspiracy Rewinds, AMAs, and all sorts of stuff. Go down. You can also get T-shirts, new Comedy Chaos Twins coming out, T-shirts coming. We got a bunch of cool T-shirts, cameos, gold and silver, like we do every episode. We tell you about our good friends at Wise Wolf. Go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code TINFOIL, and get precious metals for as little as $50 a month. Rife Technology, we love that guy. Check out his website. Use the promo code TINFOIL. Outcured Brown Gas, love you, brother. Harley Ray, we love Harley Ray. We love their candles. We love their crystals. They're all gorgeous. Get 15% off with Sam, with Swarm 15. Chemical Free Body, you saw me on the 2 episodes ago. Drinking 85. I do it all the time. I take his supplements every day. I can't recommend it. If I'm doing it, you could do it. And then our good friends at my good friend Joel Staley, check out his. If you want to get in shape, it's a great way. It'll help you get in shape. And then EMF Rocks for all the you click it. Oh yeah, it doesn't go there. But basically, it's all the bags you need to stop that dirty electricity, man. Everything you need to protect yourself from dirty electricity. We got all the telegrams and Zooms. We got all the free content you can listen to on samtripoli.com. You click it, it'll take you right to Apple. And then finally, all the videos you could ever, radio stations and everything else. Anything else, guys?
Hit that like button, subscribe.
All right. And again, you're going to see Quiet will be out hopefully either end of July or early August. And I'm super excited about it. I have more details to come. All right, guys, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
There was this one guy, he asked me if I'd put my whole hand up his ass, and I told him to jog on. Like, fuck off. No. No. If I can't put a Johnny on it or protect myself, then no, I'm not doing it. So then he come back about 4 weeks later with a cucumber, and it was like that long, and it was like that fat. And he put a Johnny on it, and he said, I want you to put it up my ass. So I said, all right then. And I got 50 quid for it though. So I just put the end bit up, and he's going, no, I want you to ram it up all the way. And he took the whole cucumber. And then I said to him, do you want me to throw it? And he put it in his shopping bag and said, no, he was taking it home to his wife for tea. So his wife had a cucumber for a tea that had been up his ass.
That meme is Americans. English people are so posh. English people, and then I just thought hearing that come out of an English accent is just like the funniest thing.
It's so crazy, right? It's so crazy how like it's my whole thing about the demonization of sexuality, and it's why the right will always lose eventually. Because they just can't go, fine, I don't care what you do with consenting adults, leave it. I just don't want to hear about it, right? If they would just take that stance,
yeah,
they would win the country. But no, it's gotta be like, we gotta follow the rules of the religion and the men and the women and you don't have sex. Like you lose everybody. No. Like you gotta pick your battles,
or
man.
even just don't talk about that. That would be fine. And just let's say, hey, you know what? That's what you do. Live your life.
I don't care what consenting adults do. I just don't. I'm never going to demonize that shit. And you could sit there and talk about, you can try to convince yourself that gays have destroyed marriage when it's the courts that have destroyed marriage. It's making divorce.
The gays have nothing to do with marriage.
Yeah.
They
You
don't-
hear it all the time. Dude, as soon as we let them get married, marriage went to shit. Doesn't have anything to do with it. Has everything to do with the courts have been incentivized. Have you heard this thing? Someone's on Tim
told me
Pool.
that. Oh, no. Sorry.
About he was
You told me
talking about
this.
how like the Texas court system actually rewards judges for like child support.
For giving out child support?
For making child support happen. It incentivizes breaking up families.
It's unbelievable.
Right? That destroys marriage.
I don't even know how you argue in favor. Like, what's the
Men
fake
don't want to
argument
get
for
married because they don't want to lose everything.
that? Yeah.
Right? So it's like there's this great video out there
Scary,
where
yeah.
they show like this woman begging to get married, begging it's a drawing, right? She's begging to get married, she's begging to have kids. They have kids. He gets a job. He's working all the time. She's like, "You're not paying any attention to me." She's talking to her friends. He never listens to me. And they're like, her friends like, "You deserve better. You're a great person. He should be showing you love." And then like this woman's getting like Instagram message. "Oh, you're so hot. You're so good looking." And then she's like, "I'm married." And then it's like, "Okay, we can have coffee." Next thing you know, the guy's humping her. And then because it was like every Jerry Springer episode was.
The guy's working, yeah.
Yeah, you don't show me any attention because I'm working. Right?
Tired when you get
And then
home,
the guy gets kicked out, and then the dude humping the wife gets to move into the new house.
And then he gets
And
bored.
guys don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
That's why if you're married and you have a house, you should have an agreement that if you get divorced, it has to be sold and you each get half.
Yeah, that's just a hard thing to talk about when you're in that lovey-dovey state of about to get married, you know,
Yeah,
to sit down and think about the breaking
there's
up
a
of the
couple
marriage.
things that should be by law part of marriage.
That's a way to do it. Yeah.
Okay, by law, prenup, and when a kid is born, there should be a DNA test. It should be and there are states that are doing that now.
Good.
Because there's one guy that said he worked a DNA test. He said 40% of kids aren't even the dad's kids.
40%.
40%.
Dude.
And that's how you know. That's
crazy.
again, going back that there's a patriarchy, right?
Yeah,
The patriarchy. Then how come we don't have DNA tests for children? If men had the call, that'd be no. As soon as that kid comes out, swab that shit.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.